speak up?
Yes, please. The mic is coming.
Doesn't work.
All right, yeah, please. I'll repeat the question.
From your experience in North America, I just wanted to see, from your experience, what do you think were your key habits that helped you succeed with
The question is, from my experiences, what were the key characteristics that made it possible for me to use the word success, but I think to be where I am. You see, most of us who have come here, especially the first generation, we're all entrepreneurs. We wouldn't have left our homes. And you, as the second generation, also has inherited that entrepreneurship, but became as entrepreneurs. The second was that the fact that it was interesting. I lived in Kashmir, in Srinagar, and in the mountains, and New York was like a night and day. But the biggest challenge I had was the New York subway system, because I thought how could people sort of tolerate it who were deaf. In a week's time I got adjusted, but I saw in that 1 week, I looked around and I said, they are the same people like back in Kashmir, no difference. In other words, it was within me. I did not see them different. I said, they are human beings, they're like me, and I'm no different. And 2 weeks later, I got adjusted, lived in Brooklyn, and I was one of the folks living in Brooklyn. A lot of times, we create our own issues by feeling we are different. As we do that, we're going to become more different. Now, there are people. I've never really felt prejudice, and it was because I didn't notice it. I'm sure there were some folks who meant to make comments it didn't bother. I never looked at it, never thought about it. So, we got to keep on moving, because if you create a sense of being paranoid, fairly soon you're going to look different. And the next thing I think is that you have to have the ability to seize opportunities. See, opportunities come, and then you have that sense to say, I'm going to do it. And that's where the difference is. A lot of folks have opportunities and they perhaps don't take them, and they go away. And when you take those opportunities, they're risks. But those risks are worthwhile taking. And finally, I would say this, as we heard also earlier, that I said to myself that I am going to be a captain of a team wherever I was. And my first job was printing envelopes while going to school at night. And there were these two, at that time, old. I was 20 years old, they looked older, might have been 30s, I don't know. They looked very old. They used to argue all the time. And I was listening, and just a few months from Kashmir, and after a little while I got up and I said to them, I said, I used to have a lot of discussions and a lot of differences in my cricket team. So I went to them and said, what is the problem? Why do you argue all the time? So they looked at me, for a little surprise. And after a few minutes they said, okay, we'll tell you what our problem is. Whatever it was, I gave them some input, and they found out, and they listened. I said to myself that you have to use common sense. And common sense is important, especially more and more with this technical age. So a lot of technology. Everybody is busy with their iPods and their telephones, and all of a sudden you're not thinking. I think we've got to think more and listen less to all the electronics in our ears. All right. Murad, you were asking a question.
I was going to ask you a question related to managing people and leading people. I think Arshad also pointed this out earlier. It's one of the hardest things, to lead people and lead change. You talk about some of the challenges when you were, rebranding Keith and Alan, and some of the resistance to change and keeping issues and so forth.
Yeah. The question is, when you are making change, there is a lot of resistance. And he was asking about my experiences. You got to remember this, that in '85, I became president of a company that had not seen any foreigner for 75 years. And a company that was, it was run by New England Yankees. We were in Vermont, we were in Maine, we were in upstate New York, Pennsylvania, we were in other places too. And the first challenge was that obviously that, and perhaps at that time, Ethan Allen was run by, most of our business was done by independent dealers. Today we run most of the network ourselves. And many of them sort of were wondering, who's this young person, looked like somebody from the outside going to taking over this company. And change has to be managed. And those of you who come from the mountains know that, I used to climb a lot of mountains, that if you go too fast, you get water in your lungs. You die, and if you don't stop or come down, you die. So change has to be managed, and the pace of change is needed based upon the mountain and your health. Many, many times I went and then I had to come back. And I remember one example in the Green Mountains of Vermont, that's where Ethan Allen, was set up. All these people got together, the person who was the president before me was a good friend, he introduced me and he said, Farooq was born in Kashmir, but he thinks like a Yankee. So they all smiled, then I got up, I had heard a saying in those mountains, which I heard, and the saying was, which I told them, I said, you have a saying over here, which is where I grew up, we have the same saying, that all the problems of the world are created by flatlanders. And they loved it, smiles. It's amazing how small things gets you across. But it was not easy, because, you're talking about change. But on the other hand, I always thought of creating teams. And I did not look upon anybody differently. I looked upon them as if they were my cricket team back there. That was my attitude. And interestingly, when you have that attitude, people listen to you. If I thought I was different, or I had to treat them differently, I didn't. I treated them with respect, I treated them with dignity, and as we also heard, my job always has been to help our people become better. That is the leader's job. The leader's job, whether it's a nation or a business or an enterprise, is to make sure that they help their people become better, and that's what the culture I put at Ethan Allen. That our leaders know they are going to be reviewed based on how they've helped their people. And that is the job of a leader.